In Washington, two 0-1 teams. The Cowboys barely lose to the Giants. The Redskins get smoked by the Steelers 38-16. Let's preview this game with one of our favorites, former Redskins cornerback and Mississippi State Bulldog, Dak Prescott School, Fred Smoot, joining us on the AA Best Bell Bonds phone line. Good morning, Fred. How you doing, buddy?
Hey, what's up, fellas?
Hey, man, did you know that Dak Prescott was going to be this good? What did you see from him in college, and have you talked to Dak at all yourself?
Yeah. Let me answer those questions by saying yes and yes. The thing about it is, I've told people about that when he was in college. The one thing I judge a player by is how does he play with the people around him. Now, I love my alma mater. I love my school, but I can't sit here and say we got 5-star athletes lined up everywhere, and that took on the SEC, and he took it on head on. The one thing about him, I tell him, he's a mixture of two people to me. He's a mixture of Steve McNair and Russell Wilson. So you can call him Steve Wilson if you want to. The thing about it is the guy has the poise, and that's how I judge my quarterbacks. Does he play like a rookie? Does he look like a rookie? He's going to always go out there, and it's never going to be too big for him. And like Russell Wilson, he didn't get drafted number one, so he didn't go to the sorriest team in the league. So, therefore, he has players around him to help him succeed, and the team doesn't depend on him to win games.
Well said. I like it. Steve Wilson. We will run that by Dak and say it came from Smoot. Are they freaking out in D.C.? Are they freaking out in the nation's capital and thinking maybe the Redskins were a little overrated?
Well, I don't think so, because I've been on the radio and on TV a lot lately, and the one thing I stress is the players actually played a pretty good game for two and a half quarters. I think the team as a whole got out-coached. I had the pleasure of playing for Mike Tomlin years ago. The one thing about him, he's going to beat you with attrition. We know one thing about the Pittsburgh Steelers. They are a blitzing team. We call them Blitzburg. He blitzed us only 7% of the game. And that tells you everything. He's willing to win by how he has to win. Stopped our running game with 3 to 4 people up front and made us throw the ball underneath, and it got away from us in the second half.
Fred Smoot joined us here on 105.3 The Fan. A lot of talk around these parts about Dez Bryant, one catch in the game against the Giants. Why does he seem to disappear in games? I mean, is it just a coverage thing that they're just doubling him up, or because other receivers are getting double covered too?
Yes, it is, but the thing about it is you got to realize he's dealing with a quarterback. Yes, I love that, but him and Dez only have one game together. You know, if it was Tony Romo, I think it would be a totally different thing. But also, I'm going to tell you what great receivers do. They help everybody else on the offense get open. Everybody from the running game to the tight end to the flanker receiver. The one thing he do when he pulls coverage, it's up to the quarterback then to find the defensive weakness and exploit it.
Fred, we are looking for the matchup, Dez versus Josh Norman. But as we all saw Monday night, Josh Norman did not follow Antonio Brown. Antonio went off on a pretty decent corner in Bashaud Breeland. So from the corner perspective, Fred, why didn't Josh Norman follow Antonio Brown?
Well, when you look at what's going on here with the Redskins now, a lot of things we're doing, especially starting with the GM McClellan, comes from that Seattle-based structure. And the one thing he's going to do is if he has 2 to 3 good corners, he's going to let them play. And I tell people all the time, when I played with Champ Bailey, we used to do the same thing a lot of times. Like, the one thing you don't want to do is undress the defense. And when you got a guy like Antonio Brown that lines up in the backfield, he lines up in the slot, he lines up outside, if Josh is following him, he undresses the defense. He lets the quarterback in the offense know we're in man-to-man, so now they know where to attack. So if you got 2 good corners, and let's be honest now, over the last couple of years, Bashaud Breeland has done a great job on Dez Bryant. Hurt or healthy, it doesn't matter. So we're talking about a corner that had a bad game. It just happened to be on prime time while the world was watching.
Fred, if it is Norman versus Dez for the majority of the game, and Josh got the best of him last year when Carolina came in here and beat the Cowboys down, who do you expect to win that matchup if it is Dez versus Josh Norman?
Well, I tell the people all the time, when I took on wide receivers, my core was not with the wide receiver. My job is to stay between you and the ball. So I'm going against the quarterback and the offensive coordinator. Yes, Dez is going to be the one trying to create separation, but I had to understand how y'all going to attack me and who is attacking me. You're only going to be good as your quarterback. We're talking about Dak Prescott, who's only finna play in his second game. They were very conservative in the first game. One thing I would thought would work well with Dallas and Dak Prescott would be the play-action pass, because you're talking about a triple threat when you do this. You have the best offensive line in football. Get the ball running, and now you can play-action pass, and that's how you get deep. So those are the plays that I'm going to be watching for, not when they spread him out. Because the one thing about that, he will make the right read and throw it to the right place.
The great Fred Smoot, former Redskins DB, joining us here on the home of the Cowboys on the AA Best Bail Bonds phone line. Fred, and I want you to take this label seriously. Is Josh Norman a shutdown corner, and who is on your current list of shutdown corners?
Well, we got to define what is a shutdown corner, and what percentage of wins do we consider you a shutdown corner? And I got to ask myself, who is your defensive coordinator? How do they use you? And I'm going to tell you the truth. If you want to find a good defensive back, you find the best D-line in the game, and I'll show you some defensive backs that can play some football. But, you know, I got a couple guys that I love from my heart. I love Richard Sherman. I love tall corners, and I sure love trash talkers. Of course, I love my guy here. I always got to love Josh Norman. The one thing about Josh, he'll get in your face, he'll challenge you. Love Pat Peterson, but one of my favorite cornerbacks in the game tonight, well, he plays corner, he plays a little bit safety, is the Honey Badger, Tyrann Matthews. I love big game players, and believe me, he might be 5'9" in stature, but, he plays 6'3" when the game starts.
Fred, some people are starting to plan the funeral for Revis after what A.J. Green did to him. Michael Wilbon there in D.C. was going at Revis on Twitter. Are we starting to see the beginning of the end of Revis Island?
I don't think so, because the one thing that Darrell has always been is a great technician. He's never been your 4-3, 4-4 guy. He knows how to stay on top of receivers. All I'm saying is this. A.J. Green is one of the best receivers in the league. Yeah. I tell people, Breland just got beat by the best receiver in the league. It's going to happen. Now, we heard him talk earlier this offseason about future moving to free safety. Well, he's 31 years old, so maybe another year and a half at the corner, and maybe he can make that transition like Rod Woodson did.
Fred, take us through the matchup the way you see it on Sunday. Cowboys, Redskins in D.C. Who do you like in this one, and why?
Now, why are you going to do that to me on a game like this? This is like asking me Mississippi State, Ole Miss. You know I got to go with the home team. But I'm going to tell you what I'm afraid of in this series. One thing about it, when we play this series, the first game of the year, no matter when we play the Cowboys, I don't know why this happens, but the sorrier team usually wins the game. I don't know what that's about. But one thing I can tell you these two teams have to work on is the defensive front. I don't know who's a part of that no-name defensive line at the Cowboys, and the defensive line here has to step it up. We just signed Cullen Jenkins. Hopefully he can get in the rotation. But when it comes to this game, you're going to see two good offensive lines go against two bad defensive lines. So it's who can outscore who in this game. And I'm going to have to go with the home team and say the Redskins pull it out with the veteran quarterback bouncing back from last week's loss.
Fred, when you were playing back in your day, who was your favorite Cowboys wide receiver to go back and forth with, and who were you doing the trash talk with the most?
Well, I tell you what, it was Antonio Bryant.
Yeah.
I loved Antonio from Pitt. And when I say talented, never reached his peak. A guy that could really, really play. I think what really stopped him from reaching his peak, he went through that quarterback carousel and never had a quarterback there that he can get on the same page with. But, the ultimate competitor, very fast, very quick. And I tell some people like this, if you ever want to see a Lamborghini on the football field, you look at some Joey Galloway tape.
Joey Galloway could fly, no doubt about it. He has renamed Dak Prescott Steve Wilson. We'll run it by the Dak Attack ourselves. He's the great Fred Smoot right here on 105.3 The Fan. Thank you so much, brother. Appreciate it. Enjoy the game on Sunday.
You might want to call him Russell McNair. You do the choosing.
All right, Russell McNair. I like that better. That's a little more obvious. Thank you, Freddie.
Thanks, fellas.
How can I love this guy? Fred Smoot. What? What are you doing?
He's still a Redskin.
I
okay,
know.
that's all. You put Art Monk on. You call Joe Thiessen.
All right, rank the hatred. The Redskin hatred of the guys we'll have on this week. Smoot?
No.
LeVar?
Ugh.
Can anyone beat the 1 seed?
Are we having
Joe
Theismann
T.
on?
7:30 tomorrow.
Oh, it's done?
It's done.
I love Joe, man.
Yeah.
Look, Spittle almost fired me because of Joe Theismann. But we can talk about it another time. We'll talk about that at Bar Louie tonight. You want to talk about it? No. We'll talk about Bar Louie tonight.
Yeah, you talk about it.
It's
His broken leg.
think about your broken joke, friend. So I just love his accent.
Listen, he is great on the radio. And I do love the nicknames he's throwing out there for Dak, but he's still a skid.
All right, Jerry Jones joining us now right here on your home of the Cowboys. And a good morning, sir. How you doing?
Doing great, guys. Good morning, and let's go get those Redskins.
That sounds great. So we were just talking about the stat, 0-2 teams have only made the playoffs 12% of the time. It's so early. It's not a must-win, but this one is huge, isn't it?
Well, we, of course, were a part of an 0-2 team that went on and won the Super Bowl. So it's not terminal, but it is important to not get behind the 8 ball on in terms of one loss. And, of course, this is a division game, which makes it that much more important. So really that says it all.
Do you feel last year, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, the game at Washington was the one that was you guys were victorious without Tony. And do you feel like this is a good matchup for your team?
Well, of course, without Tony, that sets us back. On the other hand, I think that defensively we're in as good a shape as we have been in really the last 2 seasons. So I think we go in there in good shape. I think that we're probably going to play better in our offensive line than we did last Sunday. And yeah, I think we're ready to go in and have the kind of game. We're all on the road. We're against a division opponent, and the Redskins, of course, won this division last year. So all of that is at play. But as Nate Newton used to say, let's give them some capital punishment.
I like the sound of that.
So, Jerry, last week, one of the things that I think a lot of Cowboy fans were concerned with was the run defense, that the Giants weren't considered coming into Arlington a great running team, but could be a really good passing team this year. And Washington didn't run the ball that well in their opening week. Is that something that you expect to get better for the Cowboys this week?
Well, what we were disappointed in really is the last 2, for the most part, possessions. And that we needed to make a stop and didn't. Other than that, then I thought we played well enough to win. And those field goals should have been touchdowns, and that would have been a different story even for the defense. But so what you'd like to see is to be able to go in there, which we didn't do well last year. And when we have to make a stop. That is concerning. When you get yourself in a position of having to make those end of the game stops. So I think we worked on to the extent you can work on that this week. We may even have added a new personnel there in our front 7, which is really amazing at this time of the year that we could do some good there. So all of that should make it hopefully make us do better when we need those stops at the end of the game.
Jerry, would you be a fan of having Dez Bryant be involved in the game plan early on throws that it seems like with a rookie quarterback, just having him take a couple shots downfield? I know it makes sense, but seeing Dez catching screens or catching slants and getting him involved in the game plan, is that something that you push for, or you just kind of let the coaches deal with that?
Well, I think it's self-evident. He does need to get involved early. He seemingly has a little habit, if he's not involved early, that it coincides at least with what happens at in the second half. All of that, I think, is pretty apparent. I know for a fact that our staff, and certainly in that case Dez, would be aware of putting that kind of attention to it.
So with Dez, when he is doubled pre-snap, do you like the idea of him being a decoy, or what would your suggestion be on how to still get the ball to him when the defense is paying so much attention to him?
I think you use his physicality. You use his ability to just literally win, and you have to get the ball to him sometime when he's double covered.
It's Jerry Jones with us here on The Fan. How about Zeke's week one, and those Giants really stacked it up against him after we had a chance to review that game. Wow, they really had that box full against Zeke. Do you think Washington will try the same approach?
Yes, I do. And if I were any team, I would, against our offense, I would expect to have to stop the run, and I would make it a point, and I'd make this quarterback with his arm beat you, or Dak Prescott.
Do you feel like Dak is ready to handle, or did he do a good job in week one, maybe a better way to phrase it, in when he saw a box like that, having the ability to check out of that? Tony Romo seems to be so awesome at that as the clock's running down to get the team in a play that's going to work against the defense that's set up.
Well, we don't have Romo, and that's the trick here, is they know you don't have, obviously don't have him, and so we're not as good as recognizing, checking out. Can we be good enough, though, to break them or to make them get more honest with the defense? I think we definitely can. Dak has that ability, and and he has the ability to recognize it and get us out of it.
Jerry, where do you see the opportunities this week? You know, we watched Washington play last week, and they had their own struggles. Where do you see the opportunities for this offense to be successful?
Oh, I think we've got to make them pay when they over a line, and that's always been the case. That's what we ran into last year. They dared us to throw. They shut down the running game, although we still had pretty credible production with McFadden. And so I think we've just got to be ready for that. You've got to take them out of that 8- and 9-man stuff or throw the ball 45 times and 50 times a game, which we don't want to do. But I really don't think there's any secrets here. Now, how do we make them pay? What do we do? And be safe with the ball, keep the protections in, leaves you less receivers out. Well, of course, that's the order of the day. One thing is to make what would seem to be short in the passing game, make what seemed to be short would normally be a short gain, have the run after catch, have the athletic ability out on the other end of the ball, and that's what you're talking about with Dez, and that's what you could be talking about with Zeke. You could be talking about it with any number of people, Dunbar. We got to get the ball in the hands of our playmakers.
Yes, and Terrence Williams definitely is one of those. Once he gets that ball in his hands, he is a force of nature. I felt terrible for him Sunday night, Jerry. I don't know how it is as the owner and general manager, but did you see him this week? Did he have anything to say to him?
Well, everybody, he's that kind of individual. He's that kind of player. He's the most conscientious, hardworking, focused team guy that you've ever seen. And if it had to happen to somebody, I guess I'd rather it happen to him because he got completely immediate empathy from the entire team, and he's earned it. On the other hand, it's a point of emphasis. We have to have our concentration in the right place, or you get beat. And we shouldn't have been at that point, but we were, and we needed that play from him. And but he's a good guy to be getting the ball now for us under any circumstances. He can make things happen.
So let's move over to the defense real quick. And how is your level of satisfaction with the aggressiveness on that side as far as, stopping the run late in the game? If I felt like maybe there could have been more defensive players at the line of scrimmage. I'm just watching, though. What was your perspective?
Well, we're trying not to get the big play. We used to when we had Rex Ryan, and when we had Ryan here, and when we had Rob.
Yeah, Rob.
But and to some degree, and not in any criticism. My goodness, he won. I've never seen a coach given credit for actually winning the Super Bowl, but Wade did get that kind of credit. But how many times on third down did you see them try to get in the gap and hit us for a big gain, sometime off the own end of our field? So that thing has its. You can do some damage gapping it, but you can also get hurt.
All right.
That's the dilemma. Rod likes to not gamble on getting really torched on the third down situation, and that's what does happen in those gap. Again, I'm not repeating this, but on the other hand, when we have to realize that we've got a rookie quarterback and the ball deep in our field, deep in our end of the field, and with not much time left, we've got to realize before we give the ball up, which is our best odds. We're in a trouble. Is it better to go for it on offense, or is it better to wait and try to either make risk on defense? Where's our best odds of getting in position to win the game? You can second-guess that all day long.
Jerry, what exactly are the rules of what Randy Gregory's allowed to be doing right now? How much is he doing with the team?
Well, he's allowed to be with the team, and he can do anything other than practice and play in games.
Appreciate your time, sir. Have a great trip out to Washington.
Okay, real good, and let's have a positive weekend here.
There he goes. Jerry Jones with us on your home of the Cowboys, 105.3 The Fan.